So welcome to those of you who came in during the meditation. Good to see you. So as I said at the beginning, my name is Andreas Mouskos, and I am a spiritual teacher. I specifically teach the Diamond Approach, which is a modern spiritual path, the Diamond Approach. It's developed over the past 45 years or so. And I want to say that the teaching of the Diamond Approach is not based or related to any particular spiritual tradition of the past. It's not a Buddhist, it's not a Hindu, it's not a Christian, it's not a Sufi, it's none of those main traditions. However, you can find overlaps with all of them, because all spiritual teachings, of course, are teaching about the spiritual realms. And so there are many overlaps between the different teachings. So in this talk this morning, I'm not going to compare the Diamond Approach to the other traditions. That's not our objective here today. I do want, however, to compare the Diamond Approach to the multitude of quick fixes that are proliferating in our world in the last few decades. And the trend seems to be accelerating, becoming richer and more abundant. Now, quick fixes are very appealing in a world that is characterized primarily by an emphasis on results, on productivity, and primarily materialism, really. Now, these, of course, productivity, materialism, getting results are important things in life. They are not bad things. However, they are not really the main thing. They are not really what life is really about. Life, I think, has a much deeper meaning than productivity or financial success or even creativity. Whether it's creativity in the field of artistic expression or scientific discoveries, explorations, technological developments, all those are important. But life has more to it. There is more to life than all of that. But before I go into that, before I explore a little more what life is about, according to the Diamond Approach, of course, let's take a look a little bit at why quick fixes have so much appeal for so many people. What is it about them? So I'll just list a few of them and kind of say a couple of things about each one. One of them, the most, I think, obvious, is instant gratification. In a world where so many things are available at the click of a button these days, we have grown accustomed to immediate results. So quick fixes appeal to this desire that exists in all of us for instant gratification, promising rapid solutions to problems that typically require more time and effort. And it doesn't have to be problems. It could be specific things that we are aiming for. So there is a lot of appeal to the promise of instant results. Another reason why quick fixes are appealing is overwhelm and time constraints. I think that many people these days feel overwhelmed by the demands of daily life, juggling work, family, personal responsibilities, so many things can leave little time for in-depth spiritual development. So quick fixes seem like a time-efficient way to address this question without adding to an already full schedule. So it makes perfect sense. Another reason is simplification of complex issues. So quick fixes often present a simplified solution to complex questions. So this, should we call it reductionist perspective, is appealing because it makes challenges seem more manageable and less daunting. So reductionist perspective means we reduce things to simple or most of the times actually simplistic ways of looking at things. Another reason I think for the quick fixes being so popular is marketing and the influence of media. There is a lot of aggressive marketing and media portrayals that glamorize quick fixes, making them appeal to most of us because they seem more effective than they really are. And this can create unrealistic expectations about spiritual development as well. That, spiritual development traditionally has been viewed as a lifelong kind of an effort, engagement, an enterprise. And yet today, it's not unusual to see, meditate like a Zen monk in 5 minutes. It's like, oh, I can do that. Great, wonderful. I'll pay my $250. So a lot of it is actually marketing for profit. Another reason is avoidance of discomfort. Deep, meaningful change, because that's what spiritual development involves. Deep transformation requires confronting uncomfortable truths and challenging long-held beliefs and habits about ourselves, patterns about ourselves that we need to face. Quick fixes offer a way to seemingly bypass this discomfort, presenting an easier, pain-free path to realization, which is, of course, a dream. There is no such thing as a painless, no challenge spiritual development. Another reason is hope and desperation. I think that many of us who are desperate for change, especially if we've been struggling with a problem or an issue for a long time, something that gets in the way of our spiritual development, like, for example, having difficulty meditating, sitting for half an hour and meditating. So those of us will cling to the hope that a quick fix could be the answer that we've been seeking. So the allure of the potential fast solution is hard to resist when we feel stuck and hopeless. Another reason I think has to do with awareness or education. Sometimes we opt for quick fixes simply because we are not aware of more effective uh, long-term kinds of approaches. So lack of education about how true spiritual transformation and deepening and progress on this realm, uh, how this all happens can lead us to repeatedly try inadequate methods that are promising quick results but offer very little. Another reason is when this marketing uh, kind of exposure uh, happens, we usually are exposed to success stories and anecdotes. That are, a lot of them are made up. Some of them may be actually true. So hearing about others having supposedly achieved rapid results can be very persuasive, even if those stories are the exception rather than the rule. So testimonials, anecdotes can make quick fixes seem more credible than they are. Sometimes actually, people promise instant enlightenment, you know, which actually happens, once in 1,000 years or so. But people will take that one exception and they will make a big deal out of it. And then we all hope, oh yes, yes, if I can have that, I will go for it, and then of course we will. Another reason is cognitive bias. Like many of you may be familiar with confirmation bias, like favoring information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or hopes. Like, there can be a quick solution to this. Yeah. So that's a confirmation bias. Or the sunk cost fallacy. You know about that one? It's like continuing a behavior as a result of previously invested resources. It's like we've paid a lot of money to buy this program. We've spent already 2 years on it. So we hope that, okay, a little longer, and then it's going to pay off. So we have invested resources into something. And so that can play a role in why we persist with quick fixes despite limited success. For most of us who've tried those things, we haven't seen much result, and yet we keep going. Another reason why quick fixes can affect us is emotional vulnerability. So at times of emotional vulnerability, when we feel um, exposed, when we face some big change or difficulty in life, we become more susceptible to this promise of the quick fixes. Yeah. When we feel low or depressed or stressed or anxious, the promise of a fast and easy solution can be particularly enticing. So the spiritual path, not just the diamond approach, but any genuine spiritual path, is about a deeper meaning, a deeper transformation of ourselves and our way of life. So the diamond approach is a teaching and a methodology for such a deep exploration, a deep discovery, and a deep transformation. So this path is characterized by several key principles. One of those principles is the love of the truth. Another is the emphasis on authenticity. So we don't want to just copy other people, copy the teacher. We want to be what we really are authentically. And each one of us, although we have, all of us, something very common at our depth, a spiritual essence, a spiritual fundamental ground that is common to all of us, still each one of us is a unique expression of that. And so finding that authentic expression is something that the diamond approach emphasizes. And it's very unique, of course. But most spiritual paths emphasize the common ground for all of us, which is important. But I think the unique expression of that common ground in each one of us is really what authenticity is all about. Now, in a materialistic culture like ours, and most cultures in the world, I think, are very materialistically oriented, everything becomes subordinated to the principles of profit, gain, accumulation, productivity. So within this context, spiritual teachings can become distorted and subordinated to the materialistic principles themselves. So the overemphasis on quick fixes can be also the result of this distortion of all values of life through the lens of materialism. So we find many spiritual teachers even that promise quick transformation, that will give you more wealth and satisfaction of all your desires. So what you see there is actually putting the horse behind the cart. It's like, wait a minute, spiritual transformation is about becoming more wealthy? That sounds backwards. Well, it is backwards. You know, spiritual transformation is not so that we can get our materialistic desires satisfied. That may happen, but that's not the point. That's not the goal of spiritual transformation. And yet, because of the dominance of spiritual values in our culture, many spiritual teachers are tempted to go in that direction. Yeah? And that distorts the teaching and distorts uh, the methodology and distorts the understanding of what spirituality is all about. So, there is an old saying by Socrates, the ancient philosopher, who said the unexamined life is not worth living. He didn't say the life without abundance is not worth living. Life without comfort is not worth living. No, the unexamined life is not worth living. So examining our lives, we need to examine our lives and explore and question and discover for ourselves what our life is all about, what the deeper meaning of life is. for each one of us. And what is a way of life that we can embrace that is worthy of the name human, human being, human life? So in the diamond approach, that is a central uh, pursuit, a central question. What is the meaning of life? And I'm not going to tell you what it is, because there is no such thing as a universal meaning of life. We can create theories, and believe in those theories, and they may be true, but really speaking, until each one of us, discovers the meaning of life in an experiential way, it doesn't really mean anything. Just because somebody says the meaning of life is self-realization, okay, well, what does that mean? It's a theoretical thing, it's a fantasy, it's an idea, it's a concept, but to experience something and feel in your heart of hearts that, oh wow, this gives life meaning. That is what it's all about. It's about each one of us, discovering for ourselves what the meaning of life is. And it doesn't have to be the same for each one of us. And it doesn't have to be the same over time. So that meaning of life can deepen, can become actually something more fundamental. The more we understand, the more we discover. So the diamond approach is really a spiritual path for this kind of transformation of the human being and the realization, the discovery, and the actualization of our true potential. So there is a reservoir of potential that lies within each one of us. It's not about achieving a particular goal, achieving a particular experience. And you see that with quick fix solutions, that they aim for particular results, and sometimes they imitate results of genuine spiritual teachings, but promise them quick and easy rather than through actual application. The metaphor that I think is most obvious to most of us and kind of touches us in a deep way is that the metaphor of wine. You can artificially imitate a good wine, a good bottle of wine, but you cannot really create the true qualities of a genuine wine that has been aged properly and through time-tested methods and techniques. In the same way, you can find methods and techniques that can, like for example, there are techniques that can imitate the brainwave frequency of seasoned meditators, for example. You may have heard about these things, meditate like a Zen monk in 10 minutes, And actually, there are techniques that will actually slow down your brainwave activity to that frequency. And it feels nice. I've tried those things. I've even created programs myself, to do that. But over time of many years, I realized that there is actually a deep transformation. There is a maturation. There is a ripening of the soul that results from the consistent and deep application of ourselves and the struggle with the difficulties of meditating for many years. So there is some kind of a maturing, a ripening, a development that happens that cannot be achieved by those quick methods results. You just listen to a recording and you have a nice experience, but there is a value in struggling with difficulties and overcoming them. Something develops in us. It's like a muscle, a spiritual muscle, a mental muscle, a psychological muscle is developed that cannot be developed through the quick fixes. You know, it's like I was talking with this friend of mine who is a personal trainer, exercise. And I was saying, I saw this machine that, it says it's like, you stand on it and it shakes your body, and he promises. And she started laughing. She said, Andreas, don't spend $1,500 on those gimmicks. you know, you know, just use your weights, and that actually develops your body and your muscles much better. So there are all kinds of quick fixes available for everything. So the encounters with the various difficulties, that arise in any practice of meditation or other spiritual practices, and the struggle that results from that to deal with the difficulties, they produce a deeper development, a deeper kind of maturation, a ripening. And I keep using that word ripening because that's what it feels like. It feels like it's like your deeper kind of essence ripens, just like an apricot ripens on the tree. It has to take its time, and there is something about the fruit that has ripened on the tree that is very different, much more nourishing than the fruit that has been ripened artificially. Now, there is something else. There are many who promise enlightenment through transmission. And that's a very interesting thing because there is truth in it that spiritual experiences can happen more easily and frequently happen in the presence of a realized teacher. So you can actually catch it, so to speak, because it's like, there is a teacher that is sitting there and is talking and is exuding, is transmitting, is radiating, is vibrating at a particular frequency. And our soul starts resonating with that frequency and it's catchy. That's called a transmission. And it's true, it happens. So we can have spiritual experiences in the presence of such people, but is that true enlightenment and self-realization? It's easy to say, yeah, it is. But in the Diamond approach, we say, no, that's not what we mean by self-realization. That's spiritual experiences. Spiritual experiences is useful and is important, but are not the same as realization. So realization means that the spiritual experiences have become a permanent state, have become our usual experience, our daily experience, our moment-to-moment experience. They may not be there 100% of the time, but that presents us with the process of self-realization. The process of enlightenment is that we have an experience And gradually we discover what the obstacles are in that experience being there all the time. And as we deal with the difficulties, with the patterns, with the self-images, with the belief systems that get in the way, all of these parts of ourselves become transformed, and those experiences become more the norm. You know, when a challenging experience happens that takes us away from that, in the diamond approach, we inquire into it. We don't go, God, how to avoid that from happening again. No, no, no. That's an opportunity to bring along another part of ourselves that is caught in a pattern that is not enlightened, that is not realized. So you see that the difficulties are not seen as problematic. The difficulties are seen as opportunities to bring more of ourselves into the state of realization. So these kinds of experiences that we can have, when we go to retreats or we go to talks sometimes like this, we can have deep experiences or transformative experiences, but the goal is actually to transform ourselves so that we are in that kind of or similar kinds of states more and more of the time. So the diamond approach is not just a way to have interesting experiences or deep experiences, so that we can, many of us, of course, use those experiences as, you know, uh, things that we can talk to our friends about at parties to impress people, and then we get, of course, satisfaction from that. But in the diamond approach, we question that, you know, is that really what spiritual development is about? It's about showing off to our friends? No, it's not. So actually, it's genuine spiritual development. People who have genuine spiritual development don't talk about it much. Don't tell their friends about it. It's like, what's the point? Why would I tell people about my experience? Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it if we are actually teaching something to people who are interested. So the diamond approach is about the true transformation and the maturation of a human being, of the human soul. So in a way, you can say the process is similar to the alchemical transformation of, like the alchemists of old were trying to transform base metals into gold. And you can hear that as a metaphor, actually. It's a matter of transforming the ordinary human being from a productivity machine or a wealth producing machine into a genuine human being that actually understands, realizes, and lives the deeper meaning of life. It's like living our life from a deeper perspective as real human beings. And real human beings means living our true potential as fully as possible, not just surface potentials. Yeah, you have the potential to create great wealth. Okay, so what? Material wealth is useful to a certain extent, yeah, to meet our basic needs, to meet some of our comforts, But beyond a certain point, it's counterproductive. So we want to realize our true potential. What is the deeper potential? And to live that potential, to live according to that in the world and transform life and the way that we live our life. So the diamond approach holds the promise of actualization of the infinite potential of human beings, both at the individual level as well as at the collective level. Because the more of us transform at the individual level, the more our society can transform. And there is a natural back and forth, between the individual and society. Because you can see, as we were talking about the influence, the effect of the allure of quick fixes, how much of it has to do actually with our society and our culture. Our society and its structures are created by human beings, by individuals. But then these structures influence and form the individuals in deep and decisive ways. So the advertising, the marketing, and the structures that create that, and the media that transmit all of that advertising influence each individual. You know, that's why I don't watch TV. I don't want to expose myself to the toxicity of advertising. That's how I view it. It's like, you don't want to put toxicity in your body, eating spoiled food and toxic food. Why would you do that with your mind, with your soul? Why would you put toxins in your soul? So I think we have created a culture and a civilization that is primarily based on the basic instinctual drives. The survival drive, the sexual drive, and the social drive. Those are the basic instinctual drives. And it is obvious that survival is at the core of how we have organized our society and our economies. Uh, and it's important, of course, to survive, but in turn, that kind of organization, that kind of society and institutions uh, condition us as children and as young adults to really orient our lives towards seeking the means of survival, to train ourselves in the best way to secure the means of survival, and so on. So quick fixes, I think, fall within this category of activities and methods developed within the particular culture and paradigm of materialism that is primarily built around the instinctual drives. So a spiritual path, a genuine spiritual path, and the diamond approach, of course, in particular, since we are here speaking about the diamond approach, offers us, and the spiritual paths, genuine spiritual paths, offer us the opportunity to break away from, to free ourselves from the prison of culture, the paradigm, the mindset that dictates the activities and the way of life for most of us. So there is the possibility of freeing ourselves, getting out of that prison, and actually having a broader perspective. And that's why many times you hear spiritual teachers talk about liberation, talking about true freedom. Yeah? Is freedom from the paradigm, from the limited perspective that we have been conditioned in. In the diamond approach, we have different practices. Of course, we meditate, we engage in an ongoing practice of self-remembering. So we remember who we really are, what we are on an ongoing basis. But our main practice is really inquiry. What do we inquire into? We inquire into our experience in each moment. It's like we want to inquire into, for example, our reactions to different events. It's like to understand what causes me to react in particular ways to particular events. That can help us to free ourselves from the conditioning so that we can respond to life in a more genuine, in a more authentic, in a more free, in a more creative way. So our practice of inquiry, you see, is not isolated from daily life, from ordinary activities. Daily life and ordinary activities become, we can say the grist for the mill, or in our case, the grist for inquiry, the material to inquire into that catalyzes the deeper understanding of ourselves, psychologically, behaviorally, and spiritually. And all that deepening of our understanding, our experience of ourselves, that is what results in the maturation, in the ripening, in self-realization. Give you an example. It's like by understanding that I feel hatred towards somebody, and what lies underneath that hatred. I may discover that I feel powerless and at the mercy of that particular individual. And that my hatred is an attempt to eliminate that influence from that person that makes me feel powerless. But if I become curious about the powerlessness itself, and I continue my inquiry into this powerlessness, into this hatred, I can actually discover that this powerlessness is not my true nature. That powerlessness is the result of my disconnection from something deeper in my soul that is actually spiritual power, essential power that exists at the core of my beingness. And when I feel that power, I don't feel the powerlessness, which then makes me feel hateful. So you see that exploring the, I think a very common experience of hatred in life can actually lead us to feel our true spiritual power, essential power. So the ordinary experiences of life can become the platform for deeper exploration, deeper understanding, deeper inquiry, and discovery of our spiritual nature. So by exploring my hatred, I can find that I am made of true power. That is the essence of my soul. And I think as I sink deeper into that power, I can discover that, oh, wow, this power at its core is also peace. a stillness, a quietness, a settled, deep peace, quietness. And this exploration, this inquiry can happen in one sitting, or it may take several inquiries over a period of days or weeks. So I can understand something about my hatred in one sitting. I can understand something more about my underlying sense of powerlessness in the next sitting, and so on. And gradually I can come to that realization of, oh, I am made of peace. Peace is my true nature. Peace is what I really am. So this kind of discovery can transform the way I experience myself, can transform my self-image. It's like if I have a self-image of I'm powerless, then I have a certain kind of, what we call low self-esteem. I'm powerless. Yeah. But this experience of myself as true power and peace can transform that self-image. So my sense of myself can deepen, uh, and that then gradually can transform the way that I relate to other people and the world in general. So the transformation is not just an experience. The transformation is that the experience becomes more a sense of who I am, and then it translates into how I relate and how I behave. It transforms my way of life. So instead of my behavior being trying to cover up my powerlessness, my behavior then becomes an expression of true power. So that is what I mean by the gradual maturation of the soul, gradual ripening of the soul. And you can see that it's something that will happen over time, because peace and power is not the only quality of our soul. It's just one of many, many, such as love and joy and pleasure and compassion and so many, satisfaction, uh, so many qualities that our soul has. But most of us feel disconnected from those. So you can see that really the diamond approach is not about personal growth. It's about a deep transformation of what we experience ourselves to be. A radical transformation of how we experience ourselves in daily life. I can talk more about, how that can extend into, of course, our, from the individual dimension to the collective dimension, where, this process holds the promise and the possibility, the potential of transforming humanity. But I think that's going to take a much longer time than what each one of us has available in this lifetime. But if we each do our part, I think there is hope for humanity also. Now, in the diamond approach, I've spoken already a lot about experience. Experience is what really matters most. Uh, so the uh, the key is to really explore individually how does this apply to you? Does it apply to you? And how? So I would invite you to engage in an exercise. Julia, uh, who is our host today, will put you in breakout rooms, 3 people together, and in that context, you can engage an inquiry. So you can explore for 10 minutes each. So each one of you take, let's see, or do we have more time? How much time do we have left? We have about an hour and 10 minutes, I think. So if we do 10 minutes each, that will give us half an hour and take a 10-minute break. So we'll be back at about 12 o'clock. And that will give us a half hour for questions and discussion. So let's do that. So for 10 minutes each, I would like you to explore your history of chasing after quick fixes instead of engaging in serious and deep work of spiritual transformation. And if you have a history of chasing after quick fixes, what have you accomplished through those? What have the results been? Have you been satisfied with some of the results? Maybe you have, but maybe there is more that you want. And where are you now at this point in your life in terms of continuing to pursue quick fixes, or no, I'm ready to really engage deep spiritual work? So explore that for 10 minutes. Now, so Mark has to go, that's fine. It's good to see you, Mark. See you next time, hopefully. Be well. So in triads, basically, each person takes a turn to talk about it, explore the subject. The other 2 people remain silent witnesses. You just give your presence there to your friend to really explore without any interference. One of you just time the inquiry for 10 minutes. So, you just take 10 minutes each, explore, then switch to the next person, and then the next person, and then take about, I don't know, 6, 7 minutes, a break, and then let's be back at about 12 o'clock so we can engage in our Q&C.